Right.
It's working.
Yeah. Okay. Everybody settle down. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to welcome all members of the public, councillors, parish representatives and officers to the Planning Committee. This meeting is being streamed live and is capable of repeated viewing. Could I ask everyone to note the fire safety instruction that on hearing the alarm you should leave the building by the nearest marked exit and congregate at the assembly point in the car park. Also, please switch all electronic devices being used to silent. My name is Councillor Philip Minot and I am the Chair. On my left is the Vice Chair, Councillor Martin Cuthbert. The co-opted parish councillors, of whom there aren't any tonight, I don't think, are situated along the second row of benches. Members of the Planning Committee sit on the front row of benches, and only those councillors who are members of the Planning Committee are entitled to vote. For clarity, as we go through the agenda this evening, members of the committee will be permitted to speak for up to 5 minutes on each item. Any other members and parish councillors will be permitted a maximum of 3 minutes to speak with permission from the Chair. May I remind members to declare any pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests and the nature of the interest at the beginning of the agenda item, and that on declaring a pecuniary interest you're required to leave the meeting when that item of business is considered. There should be no interaction from the public areas at any time tonight. That's probably not going to be a problem during the meeting. Members of the public invited to speak on tonight's applications will only be permitted to speak 3 minutes if they have indicated to do so in advance as a representative or an applicant agent on specific applications. Requests to speak should have been received by the clerk by yesterday at 4 p.m. In the event of a disturbance, such as calling out from the public area during the meeting, a request from the Chair to be quiet will be given, but if the problem persists, any persons interrupting the meeting will be asked to leave. If necessary, the meeting will be adjourned to allow this to take place. So the first item on the agenda is apologies for absence. Mrs. Zoe Borman, have any apologies been received?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, apologies have been received from Councillor N. Cuthbert and Councillor Mayo is substituting.
Thank you. And declarations of interest is item 2. Are there any declarations to be made at this point? Councillor McShane?
It's not actually a declaration of interest. It's just, why are we having this meeting? And what's happened to the last 2? Why are they next week? This is the first. We've had 3 cancellations and then we get one every week, basically.
Well, the simple answer to that is that we're having this meeting because this was the scheduled meeting. We've got 2 items which can come to this meeting, which is the 2 items that we're discussing. There are 2 items that we won't be able to discuss, and the reason why we won't be able to discuss them is because they weren't advertised early enough in order to come to this meeting. Therefore, we have put in an extra meeting, which is the earliest possible meeting that we could have, and that's just the way it's worked. We don't need to get into it more. We will have plenty of time to discuss this next week, but that's the situation. The timing of meetings is, as far as planning is concerned, the time of meetings is not as much down to the council as it is for the other committees, because it is in part down to when applications become ready and when developers want to move. So we are to some extent in the hands of developers when it comes to the timing of planning meetings, and because we've had a lot of local plan sites, we've had a lot of irregular planning meetings, which is as frustrating to me as it is to anybody else in this chamber. That is where we are. I hope that answers that point.
It seems as if all these planning applications are out of time now. It should have come earlier. Or otherwise, they're just going to go for non-determination.
We're not going to discuss that tonight. That's not relevant on tonight's agenda. Right, so that was declarations of interest. The third item is the minutes of the meeting of the Planning Committee on the 15th of April. Are those minutes agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Okay, so we just reintroduce the planning applications. The committee will now determine the planning applications and matters before it. Before we begin, may I just remind those members of the public who will be addressing the committee on planning applications tonight that your speech should be no longer than 3 minutes in duration and should relate purely to planning matters. When your name is called, will you please make your way to the chair, provided when you have completed your speech, the committee will debate the application and reach a decision. There's also just some wording which, again, clarifies the situation as far as agenda items 5 and 6. Due to a constitutional error in the planning process, two applications on the agenda scheduled for this evening have been deferred to the 13th of May. These are application number 24/00051/FUL, land north of Shenfield, and application number 24/00640 FUL, land adjacent to 152 Chelmsford Road. And that's agenda items 5 and 6. Councillor Bob.
Thank you, Chair. Sorry, did I hear you right? You said a constitutional error. If so, could we be told what the constitutional error was, please, as the planning committee?
Okay, sorry, yeah, for you, Chair. The Constitution says that letters go out to residents on the publication of the agenda. That didn't take place on that time. Okay, so the agenda was published on the Friday, and unfortunately the residents' letters didn't go out until the next working day. They should have gone out on exactly the same day. Okay, it's a constitutional thing I will look at, because that with a problem of issue with bank holidays as well, that would have caused an issue as well. So that's something we will look at a Constitution Working Group.
Yeah, it was recognised that the bank holiday caused an issue, but unfortunately the whole solution to the problem caused by the bank holiday wasn't appreciated until slightly too late. Right, so we're on to item 4, and this is the Affordable Housing Planning Guidance Note, the updated position. The Council has commissioned ARK Consultancy to conduct research and analysis aimed at developing more effective guidance on achieving a suitable balance of new affordable homes in the borough. And the outputs of the ARK analysis are presented in the form of a planning guidance note, and that's attached to Appendix A, which forms part of the Council's local development plan evidence base. Who is the two names I've got here are not people who are, is it Hughes? Do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Chair. I just think a brief summary is useful. So essentially you've given the introduction, but yeah, the Council commissioned ARK Consultancy to conduct research and analysis aimed at developing more effective and tailored guidance and achieving a suitable balance of new affordable homes in the borough. This work was undertaken to enhance the understanding of local affordable housing needs and explore the disparity between the operational demand for larger dwelling sizes and higher needs for one-bedroom affordable dwellings that have been reported in the 2022. The two to note the updated position. Thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Does any member have any questions that they would like to ask Ms Sargent? Councillor Mayor?
Thank you, Chair. I sit on the Housing, Health and Community Committee, so I've already considered this point, but it strikes me that because of this, frankly, error, we have had multiple developments based on this evidence, and therefore we are likely to have an oversupply now of 1 and 2 bedroom properties. So will there be another assessment made to inform the local development plan that is currently being considered?
Thank you. Yes. So as part of the local development plan, we will be undertaking a further wider strategic housing market assessment that will assess market housing needs as well as affordable housing needs as part of the new local plan. And that is likely to be more Brentwood local focused rather than a wider Essex report.
Councillor Barrett?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Obviously, we had, as a result of other applications, we had huge concerns with the previous 2022 housing needs assessment. This is referred to as the Turley report, and thank you much for the planning department and the housing department working together and getting this commissioned. It puts us back in the state we were before some South Essex body decided to do their own one with data that obviously we didn't provide to them, and came up with an incorrect assessment that some of our planning applications had to take note of, which has led to poorly thought out affordable housing schemes. Now this has been commissioned, we go back to where we were, very much similar to where our own local development plan pointed out the needs are for Brentwood, not across the whole of South of Essex, using our data, using correct data, and leading us to a point where it actually matches up to our housing needs and housing register. So I really appreciate the effort that's gone into commissioning this report and providing the necessary data to present a realistic picture of the affordable housing needs in Brentwood. And hopefully this leads us to ending up with affordable housing mixes that are far more appropriate. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I think it's obviously a great shame that was the process, that's where that worked. But the fact that this was commissioned promptly and has obviously been able to deliver as a report promptly is certainly to be welcomed, because it was clearly there was the stable door had been propped open and there were issues because it hadn't properly been thought through. The housing needs 2022 housing needs assessment, as we've already been told, didn't seem to involve a clear analysis of locally generated needs data. So that needed to be sorted out as quickly as possible. And I have to say, I personally am grateful for it coming to this committee, because obviously it's given me the opportunity to have a good read of Appendix A. And when you do read Appendix A and you look at some of the comments in there, if you look at paragraph 4.11 and 4.12, we're being told about which are on page 20, and we're being told about the lengths of time that it is taking the 3-bedroom properties versus the 1-bedroom properties for households to be rehoused in them. That, as 4.12 says, this demonstrates clearly that households who require larger accommodation are having to wait longer. And I think also, if you look at the responses from Brentwood Housing to the consultation that ARC did, the top 4, certainly the top 4 bullet points, there's a pressing need for larger accommodation for families. Families are having to wait much longer than other household types for accommodation. The 1-bedroom flats that in particular that are coming through the planning system are not meeting housing need on the ground. And the long wait for suitable accommodation is leaving families with children in unsatisfactory housing conditions, including temporary accommodation with overcrowding a problem. And obviously that needed to be sorted out as quickly as possible. So that's what's happened. So is there anybody else who wants to say anything on this? It don't have to have, and obviously we're not actually voting on this. It's just an information item that's coming to us. Nobody else wants to speak? That's fine. Okay, many thanks, Julia Sargent. That report is noted. So, as has already been explained, items 5 and item 6 have been, the wording on here says deferred, but obviously we haven't voted to defer them. They couldn't have come to this meeting because of constitutional reasons. So we move to item 7, which is for Burland Road, 31 Burland Road, the proposed single-storey re-extension. And I know that Councillor Cuthbert needs to make a statement.
Yeah, so just need to declare a pecuniary interest because the applicant is a close family member, so I shall be leaving the room.
Thank you, Councillor Cuthbert. And I have asked in our group meeting who was interested in acting as vice chair for this item, and Councillor Naylor has offered to be my vice chair, so Councillor Naylor could come up. Okay, right. So this is proposed single-storey rear extension. This is application number 25/00362/HHA, and the recommendation is for approval. And the case officer is Miss Georgia Taylor. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Chair. Agenda item number 7 is for 31 Berlin Road for a single-storey rear extension. The application site is located on the northern side of Berlin Road and is occupied by a 2-storey semi-detached dwelling with an existing part single-storey side/rear wraparound element. The site photographs show the rear of the existing dwelling and again further setback within the garden. And some more photographs with a close-up of the single-storey rear projection which already exists and the boundary with the neighbouring property number 33. The application dwelling benefits from an existing side/rear projection which extends 4.9 metres beyond the rear elevation at a single-storey level. The proposed development seeks to construct a single-storey rear extension which adjoins the existing projection with a depth of 4.9 metres, which is similar to the existing. The existing rear projection currently has a monopitch roof design, and the proposal seeks to alter the roof design to a flat roof to match the proposed extension with a maximum height of 3.26 metres and includes the insertion of a roof light and roof lantern. The proposal is recommended for approval subject to conditions. The design and siting is considered in keeping with the application dwelling and the surrounding area. It is also not considered to result in a detrimental impact upon adjacent neighbouring dwellings. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms Taylor, for that. Right, so we still have to go through the normal process. So we have the ward councillors. Councillor Alison Fulcher is not here. We have Councillor Steve Mayo, who is subbing on the committee. Councillor Mayo.
Thank you, Chair. This, in my view, is non-contentious. The detail has been set out very well in the report. As you can see by the map that was shown, this is a property that is actually in between 2 sets of flats, so will not have any impact on those residents as far as I can see. There have been no objections from any residents in the area, and it is in keeping with the rest of the properties in Berlin Road, in my view, so I will be happy to approve.
Thank you, Councillor Mayo. Obviously, I'm one of the other ward councillors, but I don't have to speak right now. I know that Councillor McShane has indicated to speak, so we can go to Councillor McShane.
I'd just like to move for approval.
Thank you, Councillor McShane. I will second that. Is there anything else you'd like to say, Councillor McShane?
No, it looks good to me.
It looks good to me too. I don't think we need to go into any further detail. It's not causing any problems, and the officer is exactly right. It's not causing anybody any problems. So in that case, I think unless somebody else is burning with a desire to make a comment, which I don't think they are, we can go straight to a vote on it.
You've got one.
I seconded. Yes.
Thank you, Chair. Would members please indicate for or against the motion when their name is called? Councillor Baldock. Councillor Barber. Councillor Dr Barrett. Councillor Gelderblom. Councillor Gorton. Councillor LaPlane. Councillor Mayo. Councillor McShane. Councillor Minot. And Councillor Naylor. Councillor Patel. And Councillor Sunga. Thank you, Chair. That's unanimous.
Thank you very much. Now, that was item 7. We next move to urgent items. We have no urgent items, and therefore the business for tonight is concluded. It won't be this early next week. We'll see you again next week.
I'm so sorry.